Are we good, Devin?
Appears to be up.
Good. All right, we'll call to order the September 14th.
It is?
The September 14th edition of the Board of Education meeting for Tecumseh Public Schools. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Suzanne Moore.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Closer to me.
All right, looks like our first item on the agenda is good news, which is our 2020 and 2021 school opening. Mr. Rick Hilderly.
Yes, for the first time in about 180 days, we had students in our buildings in front of our teachers and online. So it was really, really an exciting week last week to see the kids come in, to have our staff working and preparing our kids, just getting people comfortable with being back together in our learning spaces. Aside from the rain Tuesday morning last week, which was certainly not anything in our control, I think that things went as well as could be expected. Everything's not perfect yet. We have lots of feedback from families and even more so, I think, from our staff internally about things that we want to continue to try to do better in a variety of areas. But simply getting kids back into a learning routine, and can't say enough about how well the kids are doing at every location in terms of taking our procedures seriously with the distancing and the hand washing and the sanitizing and keeping things clean and hands to themselves. All of those things the first week were just really remarkable. So it was exciting and not without challenge, but in general, we're real happy to say that school is back in session.
All right, thank you, Rick. Devin, can you check the sound on our live feed, please? Sounds good? All right, hold on just a second for some housekeeping. Incidentally, after our last meeting, we did have an email from Zoom apologizing for their technical problems the day before. So I'm not sure that some of our technical problems at the last meeting were not Zoom's technical problems. This is our second hybrid meeting, so we'll see how this one goes and work through the problems. Milt, can you hear us now?
I can hear you good.
All right, looks like Milt's ready to go. Moving on, revisions and approval of the agenda. Are there any revisions to the agenda? Barring that, could I get a motion to approve, please?
No public comment.
Oh, wait, there is no public comment. However, I must officially recognize that no one registered for our public comment tonight. So we're going to move on to revisions of agenda and approval of agenda. Any revisions?
I asked that we have a discussion about busing for extracurricular activities, because I know there's been a lot of hub about it, and we're in a much better financial position than we were before. So I asked to add that to the discussion tonight.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay. Roll call. Suzanne?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Jump down here to virtual. John?
Aye.
Milt?
Aye.
All right, we are adding that to the agenda.
Kevin, could we
Jump
also
back
add
there
a
and scribble
discussion?
that in.
Could we add a discussion item for the admin building?
John, you would like to add that as an official discussion item tonight?
Yeah, just a quick run through, 5 minutes.
Discussion of our admin building. Is there a
Yes.
second on that?
Second.
Roll call. Suzanne?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Milt?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right, that is added to the agenda also. Are there any further revisions to the agenda? All right, could I get a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Roll call. Suzanne?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Oh, I lost him.
I'm here. Aye.
John?
Aye.
All right. Agenda is approved as revised. It's going to move us on to our scheduled reports, which is our monthly finance report. Kelly?
Good evening, board.
Good evening, Kelly.
So I just have a few things to discuss this tonight with you. As you can see, I significantly reduced the number of reports that were submitted. I know you all are busy folks, but obviously if you prefer to see those reports, I will certainly add them back to the next meeting. Some of the reports I eliminated was the pool reports. Obviously up until just recently, there have been no activity at the pool, so there was no changes. But I would recommend that maybe you look at those pool reports quarterly or perhaps semi-annually. Obviously that's up to the board's discretion, just let me know. And then I also eliminated the summary reports, because I give you the detail reports, and that information is actually the same. You're just seeing more of it with the detail report. Obviously, that's up to the board's discretion at any given time. If there's reports or certain formats you would like to see, let me know. But in the meantime, you received the monthly cash report, the detail of revenue, the detail of expenditures, the monthly check register, and then both comparative reports. What is the board's preference? Do you need me to go over those or just questions only?
Well, we can do questions only, and I'm
Okay,
okay with
I'm
it.
good with
Let's
that,
check
too.
online. John, Milt, any opinion on that?
The only thing I would ask is that we get the check register in an Excel format so we can sort through it easier.
Okay.
And then I had a question, and this has come up before, we've never really done anything with it, but we have a lot of cash sitting in just a basic checking account. I'm not sure how much actual cash we need on a monthly basis, but I don't think it's $5.7 million. So just, I'd like us to maybe take a look at being able to move that cash out of a basic checking account into maybe something that's interest bearing. Just so we can, make that money work for us.
Okay. So noted.
Milt, anything to add?
Well, I'll go with the question only, but I'd like to see the pool report on a quarterly basis at least.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for Kelly?
Okay, so just a quick discussion on some upcoming items. So I understand the board has a finance committee. Obviously, let me know how frequently you would like to meet. Obviously, there was things that I would like to meet with the finance committee, like probably going over budget amendments, proposed budgets, probably award bids, things of that nature, any big ticket items. But obviously, again, it's up to the board's discretion. Kind of let me know what your thoughts are and how frequently you would like to meet. And then would like to schedule a finance committee meeting for sometime before next meeting so that we can discuss the upcoming audit presentation. That is going on as scheduled. So we will have that presentation next board meeting. And then obviously the vote will be first meeting in October.
Kelly, has there been any rumor, any word about funding for the schools, dollar amounts this year?
Correct. They did have the August revenue consensus. Things looked better than what they anticipated back in May. So that was good news. You know, it is likely it will be flat funding from the prior fiscal year. So that means our foundation allowance or per pupil will be $8,111 per student. But nothing official has occurred yet. I do have a scheduled webinar this coming Friday where upcoming legislation and the budget will be discussed. So hopefully I will know more then, but nothing official as of right now.
Thank you very much.
I think they're gonna do it flat,
Mhm.
and I think then they're gonna appropriate funds later on because their estimates have been so far off. I mean, initially they were saying 4 billion, now we're at 900 million. And so I think when they appropriate this money, they're gonna come back later on in the year and appropriate some money to schools because the tax revenue's up so much. So that's what I think. But
There was
I'm following it pretty closely.
a tweet from our professional organization legislative liaison about a half an hour ago that said a budget deal has been announced, but not no agreements in the detail, just that it stipulates no cuts to revenue for public schools.
Awesome.
So that's a step closer to official, but not
Mhm.
official. It's,
Right,
I think,
right.
like
And
Tim
flat's
said, I
better
think
than what
that's
we were anticipating.
I think
Yeah, I
there's
mean, we
gonna be
budgeted
good-
700.
Right.
good news.
Yeah.
So,
So
I mean, that's a $1.8 million swing,
exactly.
not counting what we were thinking last year. So that's $3.6 million. So
Right.
Yeah, we'll take flat. That's a win this year.
Right.
yes,
Absolutely.
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 And we were able to give our teachers a raise. Okay,
Yeah.
they were able to get the raise. The other staff got raises too, from what I understand. So I think we're doing well. So
All right. Were there any other questions, comments, concerns for Kelly? They're quiet.
I chair the finance committee,
Okay.
so John and Milt and I will make ourselves available for you. So
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
don't worry, guys. I spoke for you.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. That will move us right into our discussion items tonight. First discussion item is the board member appointment. Since our last board meeting, I've sent out a couple emails, done some fact finding. I assume that everyone has had a chance to read that over. We have had an advertisement of sorts in the paper and a news story, and some board members have been out recruiting. That has resulted in two total volunteers for that position. So I've talked to some of the board members, and there's a preference to use their initial rather than use their full names when discussing, and then release the name of the appointee after we take a vote, just as a matter of courtesy, privacy. Is there any complaint with that?
well, I mean, if someone FOIAs the information, they're gonna have it. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's public information. So I think
It
you
is.
oughta- I
In
think
the
you
end,
oughta
it's
put it
public
out.
information if
Yeah.
they want to go through it.
All right. So I mean, if they didn't let their name out there, they wouldn't put their name in the hat. So
Do you feel strongly about using the name, or would you like? to
I think we should. It sounds like backdoor stuff to me if you don't. So yeah, I think you got to be open and transparent about it. So
All right. Is there any?
Well, there's a point to people's privacy too. I mean, if they wanted,
well, then they shouldn't put their name in the hat. This is a public position.
I mean, I really don't care.
Right.
I'm fine to make a motion on it.
Is there anyone who wants to make a motion on it, or would you like to continue with discussion?
I know this, that neither candidate expressed a desire to keep their name out of it in any contingency. So they didn't say definitely include me, but neither one of them said, I want to keep this anonymous until it's decided. So I think that you're safe either way you decide.
Okay.
All right. Was there anyone who wanted to do anything more than take a motion on it and a vote on it? No need for interviews. Both individuals are well known to the board.
Yeah, they're both great candidates. So,
Yeah,
I mean, without a doubt, we're
It's a
fortunate to
win-win
have
for
both of
us.
them. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there any discussion to be had from the online pair? John, Milt?
No, I know who I want. I'm ready to vote.
All right, Milt?
I'm fine. I know what's going on and I know both candidates and like I said, they're both strong candidates, so. We gonna
Alright.
go into more discussion about it? I'm willing to do that, or if you want a motion, I'm willing to do that.
All right, if there's no further discussion about it, then let's just, that is already in our action items, I do believe. It was
Mhm.
supposed to be, correct? Yes. That's in our action items, so we'll take a vote on it when we get to action items. Next is bank signatory and discussion items. Rick?
We just need to get Kelly added to the names, and that has to be done by official board action. So that'll come up again as an action item.
Do we have, is there a certain amount that has to require 2 signatures or something? Or, you know, I know a lot of organizations do that, like over $5,000, you got to have 2 signatures or.
Over 10,000, in our policy, over 10,000 requires
Requires
board
board
approval,
action.
right?
Okay.
Is there anything at a lower level for 2 signatures? Or anything that requires
Not
the
in policy,
superintendent's
no.
signature?
No.
Is that something that you wanted to possibly add at a lower level?
I will point out, due to the internal control structures in our accounting software, that there's multiple approval levels before it even gets to the
Okay.
invoice payment stage.
Okay.
So there's a lot of eyes on the process.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
including mine.
Is there any breakout for dollar amounts, like Tim was alluding to? Is there at a 5,000 level, it has to go electronically to the superintendent? So
yeah.
that's already in place without the physical signature.
Correct.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion on that? Jump online. Looks like John and Milt are okay.
Yep, fine.
Yep.
All right. Moves us forward to the extended continuity of learning plan. Mr. Hilderly?
Okay, so included in your packet is that document. It's about 11 pages long. It's a template that was provided as a result of Public Act 149 and the agreement between the governor and the legislature to basically ensure that schools were accounting for students and also accounting for learning during the 2020-21 school year. So as you scroll through it, the first page, there's just a simple statement of explanation of why this is in existence. Page 2 is our own biographical information here at the district and the dates. The first date is that this plan has to be set and ready for approval by the 15th of September. So we're a day ahead of that deadline. And then it has to be submitted to our ISD by October 1st. And with our next meeting coming up on the 28th, we're okay in terms of meeting that deadline as well. The next couple of pages are the assurances and requires a signature by myself and the board president. That's all standard language. Every plan in Michigan will include those assurances and those signatures. And then you get into the learning plan narrative. Several professional organizations in the state of Michigan worked on template language for these, and then districts could customize based on their own preferences or their own needs. So much of this language is templated and will show up in many plans across the state of Michigan. Where necessary, it's noted for Tecumseh Public Schools or TPS. But a lot of the language is going to be the same. There's some statements, it asks some questions, and then it asks, the answers go on to talk about how the district will achieve those things or account for those certain things. Most importantly, on page 7 are the educational goals that stretch on to page 8. It requires you to set goals for reading and language arts from fall to spring for grades kindergarten through 8th, and also goals for performance in math from fall to spring for grades kindergarten through 8th. So those statements are made in terms of saying that those areas will improve performance during that time. It did not ask, and the template language did not require any specific amount of growth, just improvement. So we will, if there are updates about being more specific, we certainly will react to those as needed. The rest of it, there's language in there about delivery, what sort of curriculum we're going to need or going to use. And our academic standards, that's probably the one that's the most customized for Tecumseh, because we talk about the types of curriculum that we will utilize in terms of using Google Classroom and Seesaw for K through 2. All those things are customized. Those are not necessarily templated from what the state sent. Assessment and grading is in line not only with the Michigan standards, but our own policy on grading. So that's kind of a blend of the template language and then Tecumseh language. The technology language there is connects to what we said in our return to school plan, the roadmap plan. So that is a link to that document. And then there's some template language in there about students with special needs, IEPs and 504s. That's all pretty standard legal language that we're going to assure that we're going to uphold the rights of those students. And yeah, I think that's it. So if you haven't had a chance to read it, please look it over. Again, it needs to be approved and sent to the ISD to be posted right after our next meeting. So you've got a couple of weeks to look it over and make any suggestions that you might want to have in the final version.
Rick, have they pushed back the 3rd grade reading law because of the whole COVID thing? I mean, we're gonna have some kids that are behind right now, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all agree that there's going to be some gaps.
Right.
The reading law was set aside for the 1920 school year.
Okay.
At the federal level, the U.S. Department of Education is currently saying that there will be standardized testing required for 2021.
Okay.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that the 3rd grade reading law is going to be something in Michigan that has to be followed. I think that we're still waiting for clear direction on whether or not that's going to be in place.
Okay.
All we're saying in this plan is that achievement is going to increase.
Right.
And certainly after being away from school for 180 days, we would hope that our return to school would have some impact on their learning.
Right.
And we expect that it will.
All right. Any other questions for Rick?
Hey, Rick,
Yes.
As far as students wanting to change, like if they're face to face and wanted to go to distance, you're not allowing that?
Well, the way that you phrase the question is it's much more allowable for students to move from the face-to-face environment and into either the distance or the virtual.
Okay,
It's not as easy for families to ask to come back into face-to-face because our safety protocols are based on the social distancing that we get out of having only 70% of our students back face-to-face. So what we're doing right now is that we're telling families if a natural switch becomes available where a student either moves from one of our versions to the other, or if a family leaves the district, moves out of Tecumseh and opens a space in a face-to-face classroom, as feasibly as we can, we will move a student either from a distance to the face-to-face environment. Luckily, right now, the list is rather small of the number of people who are waiting for one of those. It's less than 10 in the district. So it's manageable right now. But when we put out the information about the three versions, we did ask for everyone to make a semester commitment so that we can revisit things and see how they sit in January and reset the numbers. But in order for us to maintain the safe approach that we're taking right now, we're asking people to stay in the place that they requested. Unless again, something opens up, we have a list of a few people who are interested in coming back face to face, but right now we just can't accommodate them.
Unless something changes about how far we have to distance.
Exactly.
That could change everything.
Right. If we change phases,
Right.
if we change out of phase 4 to phase 5, and eventually get to phase 6, then that changes. What I'm speaking about is all based on staying in phase 4.
So if we go to phase 5, that would be different.
Right.
Okay.
It probably would be
Okay.
different, yes.
so population wise, we're kind of capped out with face to face.
Yeah, we have about as many kids right now face to face as we really want to push in terms of distancing and safety protocols. I think that number is a little lower in the ELCs because that's the place where we have different mask requirements. So I think maintaining that safe social distancing is something to really focus on. And then classes at the high school, the distancing is a little bit less, but we're requiring masks there. And so far, 5 days in, we haven't dealt a lot with kids who are refusing to do anything in our safety protocols. So that's very helpful.
You mentioned if kids move out of the district, do we have anything for if kids move in? Are we waitlisting them
Say that again?
if people are moving into the district?
Right. If people are coming here brand new, we will allow them to select based on feasibility. If there's something available in live face-to-face, we'll make an accommodation for that. But our first offer, frankly, is probably going to be one of the online version.
Interesting.
And I'm assuming that's contingent on grade level.
Yeah, because it's not the same at every grade.
Right.
Correct. So we probably have some grade levels where we could put a kid in without sacrificing our social distancing, but I'm going to guess at least half of them, there's just no way to put a kid in without sacrificing, right?
Yep. And if we can, we're going to try because I have said all along that our best efforts are made face to face. There's just a difference in the format, whatever we provide. So we want to try to get them face to face if we can, but we do have to maintain, what we've said in our plan is going to be safe.
All right. Any other comment on that topic?
Well, thanks for the explanation. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you asked.
All right. That'll move us on to our first added topic, which is what?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Moves on to our first added topic, which is busing for extracurriculars. Tim, this was your add-on. Would you like to start?
Well, yeah, especially after, we've just, we instituted the pay to play, and which I was all in favor for because of our financial dyers that we were hearing from the state. But now that we are not in a dire position, I think we can offer the busing to the event. Parents can bring them home as well, like we did last year, but I think we can afford to do that now. I mean, don't you agree? I mean,
Yeah, and John Zajac has asked me more than once since athletics were reinstated if we were going to be able to do that. And I've gone with my standard financial answer that Kelly and I both stick to is we really need to have some kind of indication from the state that the budget really is improved
mhm.
before we can make those promises. But it sounds like tonight that things are as good as we hope that they're going to be, and we could be reinstating some things because we cut, when we set the budget at the end of June, we cut 20% out of athletics.
Right.
And that was a significant number. But if we don't have to look at that anymore, then we could go back to business as usual with athletics.
So athletics, we cut, we cut everything across the board, but athletics, that 20% brought us down to the state average or just above it of 2% of our total budget, right?
Yes.
We didn't chop anything below the state average or the benchmark. Given that we're going to have possibly some word from the state, can we expect a revised budget sometime? Will that be in time for us to address the busing issues for extracurriculars for the kids? Or should this be treated as a separate issue?
I think with the amount of school year that's left and the amount of budget expenditure that we could expect, we could probably make that move now.
I think so. I mean,
And I don't believe that it requires any board action. I know that the feeling of the board is, let's try to,
Rick and I had this conversation earlier.
try to replace, and we have been, we've been putting some things back as we thought it was prudent and safe to, maintain staffing levels to support kids' needs. This is one that I've just held out on a little bit longer because we did, it's just only recently that we had athletics start back up. So it's good to hear some better news budgetary and we can make that adjustment. I can let John know that he can, use his fundraising for other things.
yeah, I mean, just looking at what we voted on in June, we're going to be close to, the difference here, what we're talking about, close to a $6 million fund balance. So I'd say, yeah, let's let the buses fly down the road and get them there safely.
I'm with you.
And I definitely applaud waiting until we had a really solid feeling that our budget wasn't going to be down. We might not have the money in hand, but at least we have a good indication that it's going to be.
Well,
Waiting
up-
for that
Up
before
until a
acting.
week or two ago, we weren't even gonna have sports, so there's
Right.
no need
Right.
to even have it in the budget. But
going-
the pay to play thing, that's
Right.
over with.
Well, that was going back through my notes. It had
What
looked
about
like.
spring sports? They still pay to play?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
even.
Yeah, pay to play has been reinstated,
Yeah.
and that will certainly support the budget a little bit better.
Okay.
And
But
per the
we
notes
were
that I
saying
had
pay to,
before, Pay to play was 45,000 and that was what the transportation was. So, I mean, I think there was some thought that was
They were both
covering
45,000 each?
it. Right.
Approximately. Now, that being said, what I alluded to earlier is the guideline from the High School Athletics Association is 1 to 3% of your budget, total budget for the school
Right.
goes towards sports. So when it was adjusted earlier, when our budget came down, we're down to, 26 million?
Well, that's an average though, but we've got a lot of sports that like
We do.
Britain doesn't have, we've
Right.
got like boys and girls lacrosse, we got soccer. I mean, we have a lot of sports. Like we've got like a big time school sports
right, we have,
program here.
I think
So
27
compared to
varsity
the smaller
programs, and
schools.
several of them are at 5 levels, 7, 8, 9,
Yes,
JV
yeah,
and
so-
varsity.
No, that was a
So
state
that-
average,
but that's-
not a local average.
no,
That-
that's what I'm
that's a
saying, a
state
state
average.
average, but there's a lot smaller schools in the state than,
Right.
especially up
But the
north,
guideline
so.
is strictly a financial one. It doesn't take into account what you're offering. It's saying this is the guideline for it because you got 26 million to work with and you've got to pay teachers, buildings, all these other things. You start giving away, I mean, we could put 10 million a year into sports and we'd be phenomenal. And our kids would be able to not read when they graduate. You know, there's,
But I'm just saying, you can't do
There's
an
a
average.
portion
You
of the
gotta do it
budget.
based on what your,
Right.
what
You have
your,
to do it based
what your
on our-
budget
Look at
is.
the average.
Okay. You gotta
Kinda get it
do it on
sounding
based on
point.
above average budget and what programs are being offered. So it's not just a 2% number. It's gotta be.
no, it's a 1 to 3% for a reason.
Yeah.
But we assuredly didn't chop it down to 1% and,
Right.
and strip it down. We took it to just above 2, which was the average. Now that we have more money, you know, if we have more money, we can probably slide them a little bit more to get some of those services back.
Well, if we have a lot more sports than a lot of schools too, which
Yeah.
benefits a lot of kids, then it would make sense. It would be
Yes.
above average.
And not
than
just the
average.
sports, but we've got clubs too. I mean, can we make sure, you know,
There's
Whatever
equity.
we can
Yeah.
do,
Right.
whatever we can do, we will try to do. There's some of the clubs that don't, necessarily lend themselves to moving forward because
Right.
you can only do 10 people inside and
right, I get,
things
I
like that.
understand
So
that. Yep.
there'll be things that we try to maintain if we can, and other things that probably aren't going to happen. And it's
Right.
unfortunate because a lot of those things are exactly the things that kids get excited about coming to school for.
Right.
So we want to try to do what we can.
Yeah.
But in terms of the busing, just based on the positive information that we finally had, Kelly and I have now, I think we're now just kind of down to making eye contact
Right.
for just 2 or 3 seconds. And I wait for her to say, I've got good news.
Right.
And then she doesn't have good news. So
Yeah.
we move on.
Yeah.
All right.
But now that we have, one of the professional organizations saying, hey, it looks like there's a deal, then I'm a little more confident at saying, let's do these things.
You know,
John
I would
Benzie?
caution to move
Sorry, Milt.
slowly on this. You hear
Go
me?
ahead, Milt.
I would caution move slowly on this because it's September, we are in an election year. This whole thing could turn around on us in November, especially if the COVID numbers start going up again. And the state will start losing money again and they'll be cutting our budget. So I'm gonna say be cautious if you want to start reinstating stuff.
John?
Well, there's a couple things. I agree with Becky. When we were going through the budget committee stuff, the pay to play was really the 45,000 pay to play matched the 45,000 transportation budget. So I think the thought there was that the pay to play would cover transportation. The other piece of it is that the athletic department also has, a slush fund out there. So if they were going to use some of that money, the true cut to athletics wasn't 20%. It was closer to like 6 or 7%. So, and I agree with Milt, we need to be cautious until things are actually passed and, the ink is dry on the signatures. I think we still need to, have some caution right now, but there definitely should be money in the athletic budget to cover transportation. And I agree that we need to get the kids to the games.
Well, and we typically don't get billed for the athletic transportation until the end of the school year. So running those trips now doesn't cost the district. It's a deferred cost. So, I think in the interest of making sure that our families are, feel supported in the athletics program, that I'm safe recommending that we move forward with transportation.
I think that this isn't the time for families to be asked for more money. It was hard enough to ask them for pay to play. We should not be asking them to pay for transportation as well.
Good.
All right.
Yeah,
Do you want us
I-
to vote on it or are you just gonna do it?
No,
No,
I don't
we
think
don't
that
need
it requires board action.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying and I feel the same way. I've just been waiting for even a small amount of positive information to be able to start that.
All right. Any further comments on that topic? All right, we're moving on to our last discussion item, which is our administrative building. This was John's add-on. John, would you like to lead us off?
Yeah, this has been one of those things that we've talked about off and on for the past couple of years. And there has been, interest from some outside third parties that looked at the building, but nothing's really come to fruition. I think at this point, whoever these third parties are that have had interest in the building, we give them 30 days to reach out to us and, say they want to do something for it, or we hire a commercial real estate agent to come in and list the building and market it. Because I think, it's been quite a few years that building has sat there with potential interest, but no one's pulled the trigger. And I think it's time to be a little bit more aggressive with selling that building.
I thought the city was marketing it for us.
Well, they have been
Yeah,
for
I
years.
talked with the city economic director and the city manager about 3 weeks ago. And they admit that their COVID protocols have slowed down this process, but they are interested in ramping it back up, especially, when we reported to them that it's basically vacant aside from some storage that, could be another step closer to someone coming in and taking over. The only potential use for the school year was the Learning Cove, and that was going to be one afternoon a week. But I was notified last week that they have suspended their activities for the year based on the fact that they have some older retired folks that run that program, and they're a little bit more of a high risk group. So they've decided to postpone what they're going to do, and we'll find a space for them in the future. So the building's empty and ready, and the city says that they're ready to get a little bit more aggressive. So John, I think that we can talk about maybe launching something with a commercial real estate company, but I'd like to see the city try their hand for a little bit longer and see if they can re-engage some of those interested parties.
Well, then maybe we give them 60 days, but maybe
There's
we give them,
nobody housed there on a permanent basis. Terry goes back there about 2 times a week and remembers that we left something and goes and empties a file drawer.
It's like a war zone.
We haven't, we look like we left in a hurry, like 1979 Iran embassy.
Well, I've driven by, but I see the dumpster still there. Maybe we'll cancel that since you're not going to need a dumpster there.
We might.
Are you still using it to clean
Well, you're
out?
going to need big dumpsters.
Probably, yeah. CLC has a lot of their stuff stored there. So yeah, the potential need for a couple of big 40-yard dumpster down the road is, but I don't think, I'd have to talk with Tom to see if there's any weekly pickup of that. We could
Right.
maybe get
I
rid
know
of
I know
that.
they're not cheap a month. I've got, a couple that I have to pay for, and
John?
well, I was just going to say, I think it would be great if the city could find a use for it or work with somebody, but honestly, they've had this in their hands for multiple years. I mean, well beyond the time when we started here, that building was, because we talked about it before. It's been, I would say, at least 4 years, maybe longer, and there's no traction. So,
The city
maybe
only
we
got
give 'em-
involved about a year ago.
what's that?
they've had people in before.
I know they had people in before, but the city, didn't they get a designation about a year ago? And that was when they kind of
Right,
took
it
up
was
the
a
mantle
recent
themselves.
designation that they got this, focus from the, right.
Right. I know we did have offers before. I do know what you're talking about, but there was this new thing that happened about a year ago that the city had gotten more involved in it.
Well, I think now that we're out and that we have I think we should march forward, moving all of our stuff out. Not letting anybody hang out in there for except for Terry. of course. Um,
I'll
but I
invite,
think the more we are serious about moving all our stuff out and we're done over there, you know, once we're
Yeah.
100% done, then we're gonna, you know, as long as they know that we're trying to push them down that road.
Yeah.
And but I'm all for having the city try
I
to.
can tell you, real estate's hopping right now, so hopefully.
Oh, that's kind of
If
good
they,
news.
if they're getting their, if they're coming out of their COVID hibernation, and looking to get moving out, hopefully we'll hear something.
okay, I'll invite the city officials to speak at our next board
Well, that's a
meeting
good idea.
and just give an update on where they are and their ability to pursue people and what the market's like.
Because now that we're not in there, it probably costs even less to keep the building, still have to mow the lawn and all that, but
Yeah.
Got to mow the lawn and keep the heat on.
Do we,
Yeah.
yeah, do we know, I'm going to assume that they did, but do we know if they ever contacted the folks that were interested before that were kind of scared off by that price?
I know that they are still, the city still communicates with that group,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I couldn't
'Cause
tell
we'll
you
make
what
them
the,
a deal.
the climate of
Well,
that conversation
And that's,
is.
I think we got to be real on the
Yeah.
price of this thing, to be
Right.
honest with you. I mean, I wouldn't take it if you were going to give it to me.
Right, right.
So,
Just got a
So-
A
suggestion.
person that knows what they're doing with it. And
yeah,
can- and
someone
can
that's a
develop it.
developer and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
Yep.
And those groups are very dependent on grants.
hmm
And some of those grants right now are being diverted to COVID-related activities. So I think that we'll hear from them that there's still interest, but not active interest until some of these grants are available again. But I'll invite Jessica to come back and give a quick report so that the board can hear where we stand.
That would be good. I mean, I think it'd be great if the city could be involved, but honestly, as a district, we just need to get rid of the building. So whatever, process we have to go through to, sell the building, I think we need to do it.
But whoever buys it would have to get permission from the city to do whatever they want to do with it anyway, probably.
Yeah, that's all between
They'd have to
them.
get some
Yeah.
zoning things taken care of, but I think that they would want those assurances
Right.
prior, and I know
Yeah.
that the city is willing to make those commitments.
And they've already changed the zoning in that area for it. So
Yeah.
that's all been done. So
I will say this, the renovation cost estimate for moving the board office to where it is now was about $600,000. And I think we spent 1,200 putting a door in
I heard you guys bought that
to
expensive
seal
door.
off. And if you haven't seen the new office, stop by on your way out and we can show you what we've done there. But
Well, thank you for your cost savings.
yeah, it was really just a matter of making the decision and making the move. So
You couldn't have found a cheaper door?
we probably could have if we'd have done a DIY, but we wanted it done correctly, so we contracted it.
no cookies for a year.
Sorry,
All
guys.
right.
Hey,
That's
Kevin,
right up to our action items for the night.
Kevin,
What?
hey, can you hear me?
Yes, Milt.
Yeah, why can't we just also contact the commercial real estate, let them give us a price, and why can't we list it also and let the city still try to work on it? I mean, to me, I'm looking at the facts here. You got a city with an empty industrial park that they're going to be pushing that first, and they still got spots in their old industrial park. I mean, I think we need to look at our own property and market it ourselves, personally.
It is a monthly expense.
It is, but we also want to make sure, that someone just doesn't knock it down and put up a high rise or something there. I mean, I think with having the city involved, they've already designated it as a lower income housing unit for seniors is what I believe they've done, is zoned it for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I think fits in perfectly in that area.
Yeah, the library right there, it's just. it's
So
perfect.
I'd like to hear the city come back in and present again. And we don't want to have someone kind of knock it down and then just leave a empty, nasty lot there, or just leave the building there. I don't think we want to do that to the city of Tecumseh and the residents of Tecumseh. So if we can work with the city and they can find a developer that's willing to do something like that, lower income housing for seniors, I think that's great for the city and for that area and for the senior citizens. But I hate to see just any developer walk in that we don't know who they are and do something that isn't good for the city. So,
You can always
That's
put,
true, but at the same time, we don't want to continue to pay for it,
No.
so
I
let's get the
that.
city in
I
here
get
and
that. Yep.
if
But
their
we
process
also
doesn't
have an
move forward-
obligation to the citizens of Tecumseh too. So,
We have an obligation to not spend money that we don't need to spend.
Well, I think we need to start with having our friends from the city come in and talk to us about it, give us an update.
Mhm.
Maybe put some heat under that fire at their end
Yeah, I
and
think
see if
so.
it's gonna go somewhere quick. And if it's not gonna get the head of steam up, then we'll look at the other options.
And I can tell you to demo it, it'll be probably about $500,000. To just have it as a lot.
Bulldoze it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know, you can always put deed restrictions too when you sell property, what they can do with the property. So that wouldn't be a problem.
All right, that wraps up comment on that. Then we are on to our action items tonight.
Okay, Becky.
We have our policy, 3,000 and 4,000.
Right, we brought to you 2 weeks ago the revised policy for the 3,000 and 4,000 series. One deals with professional staff and one with support staff. A lot of the language is similar, but not the same. And there is language that is also different because of those things require different approaches. So it's been through the policy committee and been through discussion, now just asking for approval, and we're already working on the 5,000 series.
Could I get a motion?
I hereby move to approve the following board policies: the 3,000 series professional staff policies and the 4,000 series support staff policies.
Support.
Roll call. Tim,
aye.
Becky,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Aye.
Milt,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Motion passes. Next, we have the board member appointment for current board vacancy. This, as we have discussed and I have sent out, is a term which will expire on December 31st of this year. Could I get a motion on one of our two candidates, please?
I hereby move to appoint Dr. Tritt to fill the board vacancy position to complete the term which expires in December of 2020.
I'll second that.
Motion and support. Roll call vote. Tim,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Milt,
Aye.
and the board, or the chair votes aye. Motion passes. We have an appointee. We will reach out to him, and as I said earlier, or I emailed earlier, we have officially appointed someone now, and we can have them seated after the 30 days and meet the requirements of the law, so we don't cede our authority. Therefore, we do not have to have a special meeting. We can do it at our next regular meeting.
Well, he can just go down to the office and get sworn in. So
Yeah.
even
Yeah,
before that.
that's an
so-
option too.
Yeah, and then we could just do ceremonial one at the next meeting. So
Mhm.
just
That's
to make
fine.
sure it's covered. So I would do that. So,
At his desire,
yeah. you can
whatever
go
he
out there
wants to
and-
do.
Right,
If he
well-
wants to go down to the office and say hi to Terry,
Or Beck. Or,
We'll reach out to Dr. Tritt and set something up.
Well, if he's watching, welcome.
yes, indeed, welcome.
Can I recommend that you also send
Welcome
Mr.
back.
That's right.
Last action item, the
Kevin?
bank signatory appointment. Becky?
I hereby move to appoint Kelly Glenn, Director of Business Services, to perform the following financial functions on behalf of the school district. Primary signer on all checks written by Tecumseh Public Schools, with the superintendent as alternate on all district accounts. Authorization to deposit school funds in established depositories, and authorization to make investments of available monies in the several funds of the district and transfer monies as needed. Do I have support?
Support.
I was
Sorry.
waiting. All right, roll call vote. Milt,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Passes unanimously.
All right.
Next is our consent agenda. Becky?
I hereby move to approve the consent agenda, which includes the following items: minutes from the regular board meeting of August 24th, 2020, and the monthly check registry for August of 2020.
Support.
Roll call vote. Tim?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Milt?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimously approved. Superintendent's report, update on our 2020 and 2021 superintendent goals. Rick?
Yes, one of the included documents in your packet is a review of those 4 goal areas with update language. Item 1 had to do with governance and board relations, and that is the commitment to update our policy manual. I can tell you that I will fall short of achieving the goal as worded. We will, by the end of the year, have an updated policy manual. However, the administrative guidelines are probably going to take another year of writing. Our Neola rep, Mark Kleinhans, is also doing an interim superintendent's job with Taylor Public Schools. So his schedule and, this little curve we were thrown by COVID just did not allow us to stay on pace. So we'll get there eventually. We'll have policy done by the end of this calendar year, I'm pretty sure. And then we'll start working on the administrative guidelines. In terms of the reorganization, we talked about it in May, and in May, my recommendation was to half implement the changes so that we could keep kids at the building that they most recently left. And I think that a lot of the community appreciated that, but that does shortchange that goal. That'll be spread out over 2 years now. And then in terms of the strategic planning, also taking on one more large issue like strategic planning just was completely hijacked by the pandemic. So we will set it aside, and possibly when things are better in the spring, we will have, potentially a bond issue by that time, and really be able to set our focus on a larger amount of time. And then the 4th goal had to do with my plan of entry that was presented to you in April. So that portion has been completed. But those were the goals that we talked about in January, and that's a status report. The next step in the evaluation process will be to have the official evaluation, including the goals review, and then also the checklist in the actual evaluation. And we'll probably have Mark, who was here in January helping set those goals, back for a session with the board in November to walk through that. So that's the update on the goals.
Should we adjust some of these like by August 31st, 2020, since COVID hit? And
No, I
leave them like they are.
I don't think that it's necessary to adjust them. You just
Leave them.
if
and
you
we'll
don't
get
make
there when we get
progress,
there.
full progress towards a goal, there's always an explanation why, and you can take that into consideration. Achievement of the goals is a portion of the evaluation, so
Right.
it's not the whole. It's not a win or lose.
I completely understand COVID throwing the curveball in there. It obviously has on many things. With the strategic planning, I know at the winter convention, Kevin and I had taken a class on strategic planning, and that was something that we were really focused in on getting that together and bringing that together for our community. I understand that there's a lot of things going on right now, but could it be something that maybe we start some committee on to start fielding that?
I would say that following this Building Futures Committee, once they wrap up their work end of September,
Yeah, that makes
they'll
a
be
difference
coming to
too.
the board probably the end of October make a presentation, and then I think at that time it would be feasible that we could form a new committee to begin talking about the strategic planning process. But I would say we would want that process to expire.
Okay.
I think you're gonna want to hire someone to come in and do the strategic plan too.
Exactly.
So independent source
That needs to
come
be
in and
facilitated
run
by
it. Yep,
someone from the professional organization.
yep.
All right, anything else for Rick before we move on? Check. All is quiet on that end. Okay. That takes us to item scheduled for the next agenda. We're going to have good news, which is yet to be determined, although I'm sure there'll be good news.
Absolutely.
Discussion items will be the 19 and 20 district audit, and we'll have action items on our extended continuity of learning plan. And probably a few other things in there too. Most notably, the city should be here. Maybe one or two other things. Takes us into our closing, public comment. We did not have any registrants for that public comment either tonight. Leads us into board member comments and discussion. Any comments or discussion from board members?
Yeah, Kevin, Milt. You got me?
I got you, Milt. Go ahead.
I'd like to have either you or Rick reach out to Mr. Schmidt and tell him thank you very much. He's a very good candidate for the position. But I think with the short term, I think Mr. Tripp was definitely our choice. So I'd like to see him reach out and tell him thank you.
It was on my agenda. I assume it was on Rick's agenda also.
We
All
will.
right. Thank you.
Any further board member comments or discussion?
Yeah, I'll throw it.
Go ahead.
Just wanted to say thank you to Rick, all the administrators, all the teachers, everybody that worked so hard over the summer getting things moved. And, you know, it was really nice to see Rick's video on Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, whenever he shot it. He looked exhausted, but the fact that he told us that it was just a normal school day was awesome. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I would second that.
It's been definitely a learning experience that I hope I never use these skills again.
I don't blame you.
That's when Lexi came home and I asked her about the day, as I said, I've got to tell Rick, he's got to know that it was just a school day, and that's exactly what it
Yeah,
needed to
it
be.
was
just
a wonderful
school
quote,
day.
and really, really the paramount of our success is when we hear that a student is saying, you know, it just felt like school, because that's all we wanted. We just wanted it to feel like school.
And that's a culmination of everybody's efforts.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much.
So many people worked so hard.
A lot of bank robbers walking out of here.
I know. Yeah, very Wild West.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt when elementary kids come home and the last thing they mention is a mask or COVID precautions, it's a success.
Yeah.
It's normal school for that age range, and they're pretty honest about it. So
Brutally.
honest about it. All right, that's gonna bring us right to our adjournment. Could I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Support? Thank you, Suzanne. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
We are adjourned at 8:06 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Cookies just waiting for me.